Recently I was surfing around Pinterest. Yes, I surf around Pinterest sometimes. And came across something that was pretty cool, and I thought, oh, I gotta make one of those. And it's one of these bad boys. You're probably wondering, well, what is it? It's an acoustic iPhone amplifier. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, it's just a couple pieces of wood glued together with a hole in it. Does it really amplify sound? Well, let's make one and find out. Alrighty, so I got my 4 pieces. They're 8.5 inches long, 5.5 inches wide. I went ahead and marked them 1, 2, 3, 4. That way I don't get them mixed up throughout the process. So pieces 1 and 2 will have a speaker hole cut out of it. Piece number 3 will have a speaker hole cut out of it with a channel for the sound from the iPhone. And then piece number 4 has nothing and is the back. So I'll show you how I laid out for the speaker hole. Alright, for the speaker layout, I went 1 inch in from the left, made a tick mark. Then I went 2 3/8, which is the width of the iPhone, and made another mark. Then from there, I went 1/2 inch, made a mark, and drew a line. And then from this right end, I went 1 inch in and made a mark with a line. I pretty much then found the center this way, and then the center of the 5.5, and made a crosshairs and drew lines there. Then I happened to have a lid to a jar that fit perfectly in there, so I just centered that in there and then traced around it. And so we need to cut this out of pieces 1, 2, and 3. Alrighty, so now I'm going to cut the circle out, and ideally I would have a bandsaw and attach, screw all 3 pieces together and then just make one cut. And I'm afraid if I do a jigsaw that the blade will bend, and then as I make the complete circle, the 2 ends won't line up. So I'm just going to go ahead and do these, all 3 of them separately. If there's any discrepancies, I'll just kind of sand that out. Pine is pretty easy to sand. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the 3 circles out. Alrighty, so I got pieces 1, 2, and 3. I got the circles cut. Piece number 1, I got the circle pretty good. I still need to do a little bit of cleanup. And then pieces 2 and 3, I just did a rough cut, and then I'm going to glue these together and then do the final circle and get it nice and pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these things up. Alrighty, so when you're gluing these up, you just want to make sure you get glue everywhere, cover the whole surface here. So I'm going to go ahead and spread this glue out. And then I'm just going to use clamps to clamp it up. Now that's piece 3. I'm going to put piece 2 on top, get it roughly lined up, and then quickly put glue on piece number 2. And put piece number 1 on top. There is piece number 1. So now I am going to go ahead and clamp these together. Alrighty, so it is all dried and glued up, and as you see, I just gotta go in there and cut that circle out, make it nice and clean, do a little bit of sanding. Alright, so now I'm going to give it a rough sanding with 100 grit, and I got a piece of pipe here, so that way it'll be even and flat all the way across, and that way I'll get a nice smooth ring in there and clean this thing up. Alright, so next now we need to figure out the layout for the iPhone and for the channel for the sound to travel when they get amplified out. So I flipped the piece over and measured my inch in like we did in the beginning. And what we're gonna do here is that I'm gonna have it sit, so I'm using an iPhone here, so that it sits in the dock up to the screen, which is about 5/8. And so that way it's gonna sit in there nice and tight. And so you can see here, I made a little curve. So that's where the phone is going to stop, so that way it doesn't slide all the way down. It's going to kind of hold it there. And then we'll clear all this out with my router. And you could do this with a jigsaw and just cut this whole piece out of the 3/4 inch piece. But then your phone's going to kind of lean in there, and it's not going to be tight. So I'm just going to cut the wood just the depth of the iPhone, so that way it sits in there nice and tight. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set up and clear out. Just kind of freehand this. And obviously, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, don't do it. But just freehand this out. Nobody's going to see it because the number 4 piece is going to go on the back here and cover it all up. All right, so here's my router, and so I got it just the bit set where it's just cutting just a little bit above the thickness of the iPhone. Alrighty, so there it is, all routed out. The iPhone, let's turn that around. The iPhone sits in there nice and tight, it stops. Probably a little bit more play than I like up here, but it'll do, I think. So then we're gonna go ahead and put the back on and cover. Alright, so I went ahead and mocked this up just to kind of show you guys. So it sits in there nice. It kind of leans, I just gotta sit it in there perfectly straight up. Because if you don't, it kind of leans, but I guess if you want to lean, that's fine. So like I said, if you were just to take this out with your jigsaw and cut this whole thing, it would probably sit in there and lean like that. It'd be a little bit more flimsy that way. It sits in there nice and tight. So now we just gotta put the number 4 piece on and glue it on in the back. Alrighty, the back is on there. Now I am going to take a round over bit here in my router, and I'm gonna do a round over here on the front, just to give it a little bit better of a look. That way it's not just a hard edge right there. Had it a little bit too low there, made a little lip, but we'll sand that out. So now we're just gonna go ahead and sand this bad boy up and get it all cleaned up and looking pretty. Here's a cool little trick if you're ever trying to clamp something down that's kind of awkward. Lay one clamp flat on your bench and put your piece in there, and then put another clamp clamping it to the bench and hold it, and hold everything nice and tight. Alright, so I got it all sanded up, and I actually taped some. What I'm going to do next is kind of paint some fun little lines on it. So I taped them off all the way around here. And so I'm going to get ready. I got this aqua color I'm going to use. The lines are done, and so now we're going to put on the finish. Well, finished product. I like the way it turned out, and if you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, you saw that I posted a picture of a nice piece of red oak that I purchased, and I was going to make this out of red oak, and I had screwed the first 3 pieces together and started to cut the circle out, and as I got back around to where I started, my jigsaw blade had, bent, and the whole, it just didn't, it was a mess, and I had to pretty much start all over and re-record the whole video. But I'm happy with the way it turned out. So let's test it. Does it really amplify sound? Alrighty, so no camera tricks. I'm not going to edit the sound on this. This is 100% real. So I'm going to turn on some music. I got it set right in the middle, so it's on medium. So here it is playing outside of it. I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Alright, so now I'm going to turn it up to full blast. Pretty cool. It works. So it's pretty neat with 4 pieces of wood glued together. No power, nothing, just solid wood. And it amplifies the sound. Pretty neat. I was really surprised how well it worked. So that's that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Alrighty, final step. You want to give it a good coat of boiled linseed oil. I just like to have a pair of gloves on. Just pour it right in my hand. And give it a nice, good coat.